York school district facing outrage after a controversial survey parents say violates their rights and their children's privacy. Joining us this morning to discuss is Parents Defending Education's Erika Sanzi. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Jan.
New York's Penfield Central School District administering surveys to students as young as third grade with questions like, how well do they get along with students who are different from them? So tell us more about these surveys and what's going on here. What's the purpose? You can see that question right there.
Yeah, so we see this a lot. One of the concerns that a lot of parents have is how much time schools are spending sort of teaching students to fixate on the differences that they have from their peers rather than what they have in common. And this is a very confusing question, I would say, for 8 and 9-year-olds, because different from them how, right? Is it that, you know, the ones who like to play with Barbies versus the ones who like to play basketball? Is it that the boys versus the girls? So one is that we find the questions sort of confusing, but also it's more just this sort of constant tinkering in the minds of children at the expense of instructional time. So there's a lot of surveying going on, and yet we don't really see any evidence that it's doing anything to improve whatever it is that they're trying to improve.
Plus, it's such a loaded question when you look at it just for face value, and especially, like you said, for a child, this is so confusing. Everybody is different. So to ask a child, how well do you get along with somebody who is different? What is that? So what is the purpose behind here? Because parents in the district spoke out about these concerns. They are wondering, where are these surveys going? They want more transparency. How has the district responded? And can parents opt out of this?
Okay, so a few things. My sense is that some parents are frustrated because they want there to be an open forum where they can ask questions and get answers. And instead what they're being told is that if they'd like to come in individually to have a conversation, they can do that. Yes, they can opt out. Federal law requires them be able to opt out of surveys that have any sort of invasive or personal questions on them. The problem with the opt-out paradigm is that, generally speaking, and I speak from experience with this, you get an email that a survey is going to be administered, and then before you've even had a chance to think about, like, do I want my kid to take this, it's administered the next day.
Right.
So there's just not a lot of lead time. I know that the district had originally had it be opt-in, and I suspect that the numbers were so low that they've now made it opt-out. And the reality is parents are busy, and very often parents are like, oh, I didn't want him to take that, but I totally forgot to fill out the thing. And so, but yes, they can opt out. But it's just it's an added step, and oftentimes there's just not enough time baked in for them to really think about it and do it.
Not only that, as we showed in the sample survey, the questions are interspersed throughout because there are other questions too that might be useful in a survey such as this. But you would have to sit down and look at the entire survey because there's multiple questions on there. So again, they're interspersed. It's not a specific one survey with a bunch of these questions they find to be questionable. It's a couple of questionable questions in a huge survey.
Yes, and also it's unclear if this survey is anonymous, so that they're using it to say X% of our students, don't feel comfortable doing whatever. There's some questions about family dynamics too that are a little, so they might say, 25% of our students don't think they have someone in their home that they can count on. So one problem is, if it's anonymous, you can't target the child who needs help anyway. All you can really do is look in the aggregate at what your percentages are and then try to use that to justify more spending, on more initiatives that so far we haven't seen any evidence that they work.
And that's what's important about this, because I was reading that the purpose of this survey was to implement changes, implement more lessons or teachings of extra curriculum as a result of what the response was to this survey. Erika Sanzi, always a pleasure talking to you. Happy Thanksgiving if I don't see you next week.
Oh, you too. Have a great weekend.
You too.